looking at. I got it.
Okay, cool. There we go.
Here we are.
All right. I want to introduce Philippa because we're hoping that this video will be not seen only by the team for this one, but also by other Heart of the Matter teams so that they'll have a feel for the whole movements thing. Okay? So Philippa is a psychotherapist and she is a black belt and she teaches black belt. And what else do you do?
So I'm a clinical psychologist.
Yes.
And I do have a black belt and I do teach black belts. And I've done lots of movement through my life. So lots of dance, lots of ballet. I've had a back injury in the past, which has guided me with the kinds of movements that are helpful for me and for others, I think, a little bit. And I just do lots of Pilates and those kind of things. So I have, in preparation for Heart of the Matter, had lots of conversations with people who are Pilates instructors and drew on the Way of the Warrior movements and drew on also meditation and mindful practices. Yeah.
And just FYI, you've also led the morning movements for Way of a Warrior.
I have, thank you very much, which was a life-changing experience, actually. Taught me about projecting my voice, and it was an absolute joy. And that's really what I wanted to bring to Heart of the Matter as well. Yeah, so thanks, Anne. Shall I just launch in?
Launch in.
Okay. So when you asked me to do this, interesting question because it was so responsive what we did. I didn't especially have a schedule or a structure. Did though do some research, definitely. So I had up my sleeve a toolkit, if you like, a list of different things that I draw on. But I think that there are some context pieces about what the movements were for. So one of the things was about obviously just people moving and sort of releasing tension from their body in this sort of sitting position. So part of it is that. Part of it was grounding, calming emotion. So at times when things might have got a little bit heady or people might have got a little bit sort of out of their bodies, it was about sort of bringing people into their bodies. So that was another important part of it. Sorry?
How did you do that?
I'll go into that. I just wanted to go through my first four and I'll tell you about that. The other one, or there are other two actually, was just invigorating. So that sort of thing about people falling asleep and losing consciousness and just, losing focus. So part of it was invigoration and waking up. And then part of it actually was about embodying the work, I think. So sort of bringing things home in a physical way. So all of that sounds a little bit tricky, but it wasn't really tricky. And I went to it, and we all went to it with this sense of this is the impeccability of the training room. So this is the training room, and I'm going to bring my impeccability in terms of my focus and caring for the physical and emotional and sort of spiritual parts of everyone here. So everybody on team is looking out for the shifts in energy. And because we didn't use the chat at all, we just spoke, then you would discern the time to say, I'm thinking we could do with a move, or I'm thinking people might be falling, losing focus a little bit. So it was a conversation that was really helpful. But mostly I just kind of went into it, and there wasn't a schedule, but it would be at least 1 or 2 times, I would say, in any session we would have some moving. And then around it also there's some principles, I think. First of all, safety, physical safety was an important part of how I thought about doing things. Part of it was connecting us all as a group in our exercises or our movements. Part was about being flexible and kind of adaptive to what I saw in terms of people's physical limitations. And then that awareness bit about just discerning when are we ready in the room to do this. And I think for me, a really important part was surprise. So that's why we didn't have it in a manual or anything. I enjoyed surprising the training, including surprising Claire, who also surprised me, I must say. And that just, I think, kept it new and alive and fresh. You know, it wasn't that we had a set of movements we were going to go through. It was, it was a surprise, and I had a lot of fun with that.
Really answering to life shocks.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I think the calming part, and oftentimes that was about just a mindful meditation. And I remember 1 or 2 times Claire said, can you just lead us through a mindfulness process? And that would start with the anchor of the breath usually, or a sort of physical anchor of where's your place you connect with best in your body. And then just settling into that and kind of breathing into that. So really just some breathing, resonant breathing, whatever you wanted, but just that kind of calming, grounding connection to the breath and your physical experience. So yeah, lots of ways that you could do that. But I think for me, the mindfulness part worked well, the connection with the breath and the body. So are there any questions at that point and comments?
Well, Claire kept saying it's body feelings, body feelings, body feelings. Because if you go straight to the heart of the matter, which is all we have time for, it is about body feelings, not a lot of that or a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So,
well, let me ask a question. You know, obviously it was all new and not sure going in what was going to work and all, but what were you surprised at, or what was the thing that you learned about this in kind of overall from the approach?
Well, what I was surprised, I mean, there was a big surprise because we weren't, so just go here, we weren't going to do the disavowal vow. And so this was a surprise. Claire did a piece about core beliefs. And then she said to me, can you do something with that, please? Right? So I went, okay. And because we couldn't have a conversation, I just said, so you want me to do something physical with it? Yes, I trust you, she said. Okay, I said. So that was a surprise to me because, well, where do you go with that? You go to a disavowal, don't you? Really? So I just started that with that sort of core belief. Where do you feel that? So putting your hand on your body where you might feel, where do you really feel it gets you, that one? You know, is it here? Is it in your tummy? I'd be moving the screen around. You know, is it here? Just really, where is it? And then just kind of squeeze that quite tight while you're in the chair and you're, you know, feeling that sort of power of that core belief. And then you might want to close your eyes, I'd say. And just breathing into that core belief. You might want to close your eyes and just feel the grip on you. And then we're just going to start by just kind of wiping it off. And then you might actually want to give it the words. No, I don't believe, I'm not going to believe that I don't belong. It's not true. And then it kind of expanded. And I said, well, and you might actually want to stand up, you know, because maybe it's going to take a bit more energy. So you're just going to, no, it's not true. And you might want to be saying it quite loud. It's not true that I don't belong in just whatever it's going to take. And you're going to, and you might want to flip that belief off. So that's sort of where it went. And then I brought it into an avowal, which was a sort of bringing it home and just sort of pausing and having that breath. A big sort of sigh, and it's time to feel the relief of that weight. You might need a bit more flicking and a bit more dusting off that, and then the relief of the weight and the strong posture and just feeling yourself centered and connected. A big, grateful, delicious breath, and whatever, perhaps there's a thought that comes now. I belong. Perhaps it's that thought, whatever your thought is. And so I just kind of took it there into some breathing and settling. And it was really interesting afterwards. Some of the team said it was the most powerful disavow they'd done. And there was something so different about it because it was quiet. I mean, they could hear me, but there wasn't the big build up with the music and the darkened room maybe and all that maybe scary stuff around you. It was just your own sort of physical process. So that was one.
So they were on mute?
Yeah, everyone's on mute.
Okay,
Yeah.
except you.
Yes. Yeah. So that was a surprise, Ross. And I had to do some clearing in my next break about how I done the wrong thing. But it was beautiful. And and all the time though, I'm watching Claire, watching for her to be going like this, you know, which she wasn't.
You're really good at reading energy.
Yeah. So it was just watching, staying engaged, seeing where they're at. If I saw a movement from them, maybe I'd mirror it, you know, to kind of validate it and grow it. So that was a beautiful surprise. I think another surprise was just how people enjoyed it and loved it, because it, you know, it really wasn't terribly difficult. It was just gorgeous. And the connecting part was also beautiful. So some of the things I said around safety were just, you know, for some people, you know, even lifting your arms might be an issue. So I didn't do a safety speak. I just at the beginning of each move go, you know, we're going to, so you might just start with I have to move my chair back and we'll start sitting and you'll just sort of feel your thighs to begin with and just connecting with the sensation of the palms against the legs, and then we're just going to let the hands flop and just bring in the shoulders. So be able, you know, just sort of growing the movements, very gentle to start with. And then you might actually want to bring your arm in a little bit more. And if your shoulders let you, and if you felt like you wanted to, you could even take your arm all the way out. And then you might want to stand up from your chair, and then you might want to stretch with it. So just sort of bringing that sense of awareness of what's safe as well. Yeah, and so lots of this sort of movement and rolling, and then this sort of moving into perhaps a beautiful ball. That's a lovely one where you have a ball of energy just between your hands. It's ever so small to start with. And then you might feel that it wants to go bigger. You might find it's become almost like a beach ball size now. And perhaps your ball's actually going to go up to the roof. Just where your body wants to take it, might go down low. And that could go for however long it was appropriate until it came back here. And then, you might want to sort of move that ball into a bouncy ball, and that's quite lovely. That's sort of invigorating, bouncy ball. Bounce your ball on the floor, and you might want to bring your knees and your butt into it. You might want to bounce your ball against the wall. And then you might want to bounce it against the other wall or against the roof. And so just all this is kind of invigorating movement. Yeah. So that sort of sense of flicking is lovely. That sort of starburst thing anyway that we do. Oh, I feel quite warm now. So sort of invigorating and settling moves. Yeah. So, I mean, I've got lots of moves. I did use the sort of warrior grounding sort of breath thing. And sometimes that would be just arms out to the front and bring it into the little squatty. But you don't want anybody doing anything too big, really. And of course, for people with just stability problems, then you would get them to hold the back of their chair, probably a more stable chair than that one. So I used Elvis the pelvis a bit, and I used, a few of the warrior exercises. And there's a lovely...
Elvis the pelvis?
Yes, they liked Elvis the pelvis. Yes. And so some of them are quite sort of slow and grounding and just very, very gentle, sort of touching the body and moving and getting bigger. Yeah. And also I'm encouraging people just throughout the whole training, move when you want to, move when you want to. Really important not to just be sitting there on the chair.
I noticed that you're very natural with moving the screen so that different parts of your body can be seen. I'm guessing that that was part of it. You actually demonstrated and moved the screen just as naturally as you did here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, which was quite quite a juggle. But yeah, that's right. Yeah, wanting to move the screen. And so at times just bringing a lot of play into it. I started one like this. Perhaps we could all do this. We could all stand up from our chairs. Again, just finding your lovely, lovely straight posture. So not rigid, just really tall and straight, and where your center is, and feeling your feet on the floor as you're doing that. Maybe rocking from side to side. And if VJ was here, and she'd probably know this better than I, but we could go into a version of a gumboot dance. So we'd be just 1 foot like this, up and down. And then we might change to the other foot. And we might change perhaps 2 steps on each side. Oh, that's 3. I'm going to do 3. Beautiful sway going. And then we might just go from side to side. Stomp, 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 stomp. And then you might start clapping your thighs. And you could take it into a clap.
What about on our butt?
Sorry? Or on your butt.
Slap on the butt.
Beautiful slap on the butt, absolutely. Or we could bring our hands out to the front. Let's bring out the right hand. Palm down, palm up. Palm down, beautiful breath in. Palm up, breath out. Hand on shoulder. Hand on
Macarena.
shoulder. Yes, yes. Hand on thigh. Hand on butt. And then we can just make it go faster and see if we can get it together.
I never did learn the Macarena.
Either.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm going wrong. I've got it wrong. But, and round. One more time. Thigh, butt, round and center. Okay. So that was
fun.
That was great.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to study up on the Macarena.
Yes.
Or Gangnam Style.
That's right. That's what they do now, right?
So
What,
just
Gangnam?
play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said encourage them to move. So whenever they want or need to. So during session, people can get up and move around, and team too, because we've been sort of
Oh,
telling team not to move, to stay still, to not be distracting.
No. No, I mean, although team were always just, in process of supporting, so in that way they were the sort of spine, I guess, of the training. They're very, very involved in everything. So I think to have people just stand, to sit there watching would be a bit odd, really.
Well, but like if it's and I get that during movements that the team would get engaged, but like if one of the trainers is interacting with a participant, and that's really where the focus and the energy is, for the rest of the team to stay fairly still, so that the other participants are not getting distracted by movement and other windows.
Yes, but I think that is that level, isn't it? That level of skill and engagement with the training. But yes, if you're on team and somebody's processing and with the trainer, of course, your commitment is to engage in that in a breathful way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The stillness is not so much about being immobile as it is being present.
Yeah.
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 Sure.
Yeah.
But when we tell some folks not to fidget, that yeah. But I get, the presence and awareness and connection.
So the fidgeting would be something to be mindful about, wouldn't it? What's going on for me that I'm fidgeting? And perhaps that's a team discussion or discipline to look, or agreement. If I notice my urge to fidget, or I catch myself fidgeting, perhaps I could breathe into that and see what that's about and just stay present with it and, ride the urge of fiddling and engage with what's happening. Because we fidget for a reason, I think, usually.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Val joined us. Philippa, I don't know if you've met Val. I can't recall.
No.
I've never met. No.
Hi, Val.
Hi there.
Val's
a Houstonian.
Yeah, Houstonian and also an ICS member. So she's involved in that group and that work that happens there.
Okay. And also in the path possibly of a hurricane.
Yes, luckily it's heading farther east. So I think we'll have some gusts of wind, but maybe nothing awful tonight.
Right.
I hope.
Yeah, we're not supposed to get above 25 miles an hour in gusts, so we should be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So are there any bits to talk about? I mean, I do have a list of movements that we could go through, or I could just send them to you, Anne, and the more still ones might be the sort of ballet arms, so it's just standing up with the breath and then bringing it down, or even more sort of gently. Yes, so breathing in with the out breath.
The plie.
Yeah, and the plie. But again, I think particularly because we're not with people, Ross. So with the in-breath is to always be using words like, as far as your knees want to take you, and, just be mindful if you have injuries of looking after yourself, and those words weaving all the way through.
It's like being mindful of your body again. So that you're not making it, you're in connection with it.
Yeah. Yes.
You said something about, playfulness and the connection. And I guess this is, since you've had the experience, I'm seeing if you have a sense check of it. But like when you were turned and pushing the ball against the wall, I thought, well, it'd be kind of cool that I called your name and I threw the ball to you. You know how we play virtual ball in morning movements? It would maybe be a way to connect the group. Does that seem to fit the context, or would that be kind of odd?
No.
Okay.
Not odd. And in team meetings, we would try doing things like I would do.
Put your hands on. Oh, that's kind of cool.
And actually just breathe into it and see what you feel.
See if you can feel the person.
Yeah.
You're weird, Philippa.
Energy in the palm.
That's cool.
Just breathe into those palms of those hands. Just aware of the tingling.
And then I could do it down. I got Val and Richard below me, so I could like.
Yes, might be.
Philippa on either side.
Yeah, I've actually got Ann and Philippa on either side, so
Yeah, that's it's everybody's
So
got a
it's-
different view of who's there, and
right. It's like somebody's got 5 hands.
We did one top, bottom, and on the side.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think those ideas of how do we connect like that on the screen?
But it also kind of pops out of the box.
Absolutely. So yes, it really, it's not planned, but I did have a sort of
Your research.
collection of resources to dip into.
I would love to have that.
Yeah.
What about music? Was there any attempt to try and use music with movements, or was it just?
We didn't. We did end each session with live music. So we had our lovely Caleb and his lovely partner Liz, and Liz plays the flute. So she played flute. Because we just didn't have, we tried electric music, we tried sharing things. It just was very glitchy and clunky. It didn't work. So live music was fine because it was just sort of like hearing a voice or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting that the voice, whatever they do with the compression for the voice, is better than when you share the audio over the computer.
Yeah.
There is a setting in Zoom that you use when you're sharing videos that's supposed to help with that. So I don't know if that worked or not. I've done YouTube videos in another training class for a therapist that was teaching other therapists some stuff, and I did team for her, and that seemed to work okay. So I don't know if we could play with it and see. I don't know, Anne, what you think about using music, if it's worth checking into or not.
Well, like even in the meditation, I only use music if there's background noise from the hotel that I want to, use the music as a container. But if it's silent, I'd prefer silence.
But like entry music or break music, I'm not so much during processing. Maybe, I was asking about movements, but like entry music or when we're on break, maybe might be. That way, if somebody comes back, they're not just sitting there looking at a dead screen. They've got something going on.
Well, Steb had his pictures and music didn't he have music that went with the pictures?
Yeah, so that's right. If you could have music and video or anything, but not with the live sort of talking at the same time.
Okay, yeah, now that makes sense.
What's lovely about the flute playing was that actually if somebody wanted to say something over that, you could still just be present. And really our thinking was to hold people as they left the space, but then people often
hung out.
But it was lovely because we could see her playing. It was beautiful. Yeah, you could have Darren on his panpipes or whatever he does.
Yeah,
the Indian flute.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts, ideas? I would love to see. I really appreciate all the research you did to look about whether it was enlivening the group or settling them down or just getting them more in touch.
Yeah. So I think getting them more in touch is just, for me, that's a sort of Hakomi practice, which is where are you feeling it? So hands to that part and breathing into it. Oftentimes, really. And Claire does that as well. So we've both done Hakomi training. So that's something that came pretty naturally. But I think that staying connected to the body is so important, particularly because the team aren't with them. So any way to get them into their physical experience is really important.
Yeah.
So that's sort of rubbing myself and, you know,
Yeah.
shaking, just bringing myself back to life, quite vigorous, or it might be that just sense of relief and grounding, and it might be even a hug actually for myself right now. Just, what do I need? I need some lovely, lovely comfort, and that lovely hug would be just perfect, very grounding into the body right now. Yeah. Lots of reminders about the breath all the way through in the movements and in the training. So keeping people present. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just 2 days of being present to your body's got to make a change in things.
Absolutely. And we found that the breaks, you know, people made such good use of their breaks. It was extraordinary. And I think because they were at home, you know, they didn't have to go and find a cafe or queue up somewhere or anything like that. And their food was all made. So they would just go and eat, and they'd come back and they'd say, oh, I've been running along the creek, or I've been on a bike ride, or it was wonderful, that sense of back into life and back into this training group. So
And
there was
so
something about this, yeah, with their body. Mm-hmm. And also, I think there was what we didn't do, which I think would have been fun, actually, which I've done in other training contexts, is perhaps to do great breakout rooms and just give them a minute and say, come back with some gift for us in a physical way that might be a way to wake us up, you know, a vigorous connecting activity together, or, you know, just anything you want to come back, a gift to the group. I don't know, we didn't do that, but there was a sense of responding to what we saw. And sometimes there'd be a movement in the group that I'd just pick up on, as I said, and mirror and grow that. Yeah. Mm. And watch so-and-so. Watch Ross. Look at Ross. Yes, let's do that movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ross freezes. Don't look at me.
No. You wouldn't do it at the beginning.
Yeah.
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 So does that give you a sense of the kind of breadth of, I mean, for me, I think those four main things, the settling, calming, coming back to myself, the invigorating, waking myself up, the releasing the tension, and that might just be also a little bit of progressive muscle, you know, squeeze your muscles, release them, that sort of releasing the muscle tension, and then the embodying the group. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Embodying the work. Where am I feeling it? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
I want you to be on team.
Oh. I'd love to be on team, except I expect it would require me to be awake all night.
I know.
You can sleep during the breaks. Come back just.
Minor problem.
That's true. That's true.
You can take naps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got, yeah.
So, okay, so just now you as an example, in a sort of a joking way, but you called my name and said, do like Ross, but did you actually do that over the course of the week and point out individual participants, and that's another way to draw them in? And
Yes.
okay.
Like, look
And
at
again,
Val.
like then you'd know them, wouldn't you? You'd know them pretty well, and you'd know which one would. And there were sometimes people who you just wanted to call them out a little bit more, and maybe this is a way they could feel safe to do that.
Mm-hmm. It's not as vulnerable as speaking, but it's a way to open up and connect and be seen.
Yeah.
Get some courage or some confidence up.
Yeah.
Well, it's also
Yes,
like
connection.
I'm making a contribution.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like, because you're not asking to do anything, they're already doing something, and you're just saying, hey, that's a good idea, right? So it's that kind of a feel to it.
So they're not on the spot, and they get recognized for what they're doing, their contribution. So
Yeah.
So this is the kind of stuff that is interesting to me, because okay, we're going to do movements as one piece, but to understand all the different subtle ways that you can use this to affect the training through different pieces like this, even calling people's names, pointing them out, that just didn't occur to me until you said my name and do like Ross did. Other than I was like, oh crap, you know, which is echoes of my past.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
yeah, so that's helpful to understand that, because anyway.
I have a
Go
question.
ahead.
Did I'm guessing if the team were all involved, I mean, did there ever like have too much of that, or like over not being sensitive to what was going on?
No. No. I mean, the team were all involved, but I did all the movements. So I led all the movements. And yeah, we did all take on that intention to be aware of the energy in the room. I think mostly I was at the front of it in a way. So it didn't, maybe I remember once or twice where somebody said, is it time? But I think on the whole, when you're inhabiting that role of caring for the movements, I was aware of it. So I don't think I missed a time, you know, when somebody said now would be the time. Yeah. And sometimes Claire would say, and sometimes she'd go longer than I thought was working, and then I would say something. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's this idea of spotlighting, that the host can spotlight somebody. So is there any value or a detriment if you're leading movements that we spotlight you and then the whole group has a bigger picture of you to follow, but then they're not seeing each other as much, they're only seeing a little film strip?
I just left that to people to do. If they wanted to spotlight me, they could.
Okay.
You know, but I think it was the benefit for me of the group being there working this together was more important than, because I wasn't doing anything
complex or okay.
Yeah. Okay. You know, complex in a funny way, but it wasn't anything that really it could go wrong particularly. Yeah. So I don't think so. I think it's more about the group. The
group, seeing the whole group working together and yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not about managing them so much as it is underscoring what's going on in some way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe I missed it because I came on late, but how was a movement introduced? Did you just do it when it needed to be done, or just out of the blue? Okay.
So I would say
not out of the blue, but
yeah.
I know.
Yeah, it wasn't scheduled. Yeah. Yeah.
And it sounds like anybody could say, hey, I think it's time for movements. That's what you meant by team was involved. But I'm just summarizing that, yeah? Yeah,
that's right. Absolutely. Not just anybody could, but everybody had that focus and would say that. And also, if I saw a participant looking uncomfortable or looking like they were zoning out, then that would be a cue to come in. Because it usually isn't just one person, is it? Those waves of sort of loss of focus. Yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
My only concern would be 3 or 4 people coming in without actually having the sensitivity. But you said that didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen. No.
Well, and with that, I had that same thought, but when I look at the team that we've got, the group that we've got, I don't really see anybody who I'd be concerned wouldn't have the sensitivity to it. So if it was
not this team.
Right. Yeah. If it was an open more to life team where we have first timers or this or that, that'd be a different scenario. But the folks that we have got a lot of sensitivity to that.
I think that's something about this course, isn't it? That it requires really to have that really experienced team, because you have that one-on-one facilitation going, and the roles are very involved. I think partly everyone's, you know, if you were on graphics role, then that's a huge role for focusing on anyway. So I don't think, yeah, we didn't have any unsolicited, unwelcome team contributions.
Good to know.
Yeah. Yes. So I think another thing that occurred to me during the weekend, particularly when we got to I love, honor, and respect, and then I had this sense of the movements and everything. It's like this screen was like this beautiful box of chocolates, and that you'd end up in a breakout room with a beautiful selection. You never knew what you were going to get, and suddenly you'd be there and it kind of opened with this incredible new bunch of treats, and you never really knew what was going to be waiting for you. So, you know, I said about the movements being fun and surprising. To me, it was just sort of part of that lovely metaphor, really, this beautiful box of chocolates, and you didn't know what was going to come.
We did practice that this last time, and it was surprising how connecting.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
How much, so what I've heard so far, it sounds like you're watching the participants and seeing their energy and things like that. Was there anything that you did in the movements or in how you suggested the movements or in phrases you used within them that was either about tying a bow on something that just happened or pacing into what's coming next?
Yes, I think probably most things were Ross, but I don't know that I wouldn't have a particular strategy for doing that.
Right. Yeah. But it was something that you incorporated into it as it fit in the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because we did that at WOW Movements when Carrie Shannon and I did WOW Movements. We would look at what was coming that day and have that be sort of some of what we wove into the movements that morning. So it, you know, set them up for the rest of the day. So I didn't know if it was just about movements and getting them connected or if it was really following the flow of the weekend or the module, whatever's going on in the module.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a sort of conscious intention, but was whatever we did was responsive to, because sometimes, that's important. What is the energy here? You know, maybe this actually isn't the time to pretend to be a thunderbird, or maybe it actually is. Maybe a change of energy would be really helpful right now, or maybe actually this is something more solemn and focused and, you know, inward looking, or maybe it's time to just get out of that and move on. So transition.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
Yeah, so I think what's really important is the attunement with the trainer, actually, and watching that and just an awareness of that energy and what the intention is there. And so that's really probably important. And I think Claire and I have worked a lot together, so we didn't particularly have that direct conversation, but that would definitely be an important part of it.
Y'all have woven in and out of each other's space a lot of times.
Yeah. So I'm very happy to send you, you know, my sort of list of things, and if they don't make sense, I'm happy to help whoever makes sense of them. There's a really beautiful Chinese Qigong video on YouTube, which a Chinese therapist showed me, a psychologist I was supervising actually, but she showed me 10 years ago or something. It's just gorgeous, funny, invigorating, and I'll share that link with you. It's really energizing just to do that real time. Yeah.
Sounds great.
So I'm happy to share resources, and that also would just say, make it up as you go, and it'll be different every time.
Yeah.
It sounds like the key is just being tuned to what is, as well as the context of where we are in the flow, so that you know what, like you said, the transitions, all of that is more of a sixth sense in the moment kind of a thing, it sounds like.
Yeah, yes, that's right. And so it might be preparing to move into, say, the cost process had quite a significant time. I think it was an hour or something, or even maybe
90
an hour
minutes.
and a half or more
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sort of moving into that significant chunk of time, really important to kind of just get the body moving and settled again before starting into that.
Like having a big dance before you do the meditation.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments or thoughts or feelings?
I just want to soak you up and be you.
Yeah, I think I've thought of all my questions that come to mind, but I really appreciate you being the pioneer and bringing back the gold and sharing it with us. You know, it'll be part of your legacy in the room with us.
Wow, that's lovely. Thank you.
I cannot tell you how much and how profoundly grateful that Claire was for the part you played. She mentions it all the time.
Wow. Well, it was an absolute privilege and joy, and how wonderful at that time when we were all closing down, weren't we, with the pandemic really just starting here, and for us to have this momentum to move into something that was, we just went from going, well, we were going to be in Kensington Town Hall to, okay, where are we going? And just what a gift to have that focus at that time to create something.
And lots and lots of preparation.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, for passing it on. I loved that this was an experiential, and you actually had us doing the moving and your creativity out of the box too. I mean, there is so much that I just didn't even dream of that you naturally seem to incorporate, even with just how you were with us by moving the camera and the side. It's, mind-blowing, but it's the word that, it's like really out of the box.
Wow. Well, thank you, Richard. Yeah. Yay. Well, what a pleasure to meet you all.
Yes, you as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
And we shall talk again.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Lovely. Well, I hope to stay safe from that hurricane. Maybe go and bring a out in a bit.
Yeah.
Or not. Yeah. All right,
right.
lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Philippa.
Right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.